Welcome to the Modise Network. The elections have come and gone, and the real work of running the country starts next week when the new parliament sits and President Ramaphosa appoints his executive. There is a lot of speculation about the ministers that he will appoint, but certainly the economy, employment, and eliminating crime and corruption are going to be foremost issues for his government. Today, I take a step back to look at how the main parties fought the elections, the setbacks they suffered, and the game plan they have for South Africa. The main parties, the governing African National Congress and the main opposition, the Democratic Alliance, suffered losses to their seats in Parliament. And the question we're asking is, what difference would the outcome make to the nature of politics in South Africa? And how is the state going to respond to the pressing challenges facing this nation? First up will be the ANC's Fikile Mbalula, and he'll be followed by the DA's Makashule Ghana. And later on the show, President Cyril Ramaphosa campaigned for the ANC, and the party won the 2019 general election on his record of tackling corruption in the 15 months following the demise of the corrupt Zuma government, and on his commitment to intensify the fight against corruption following this election. He has now received a mandate from the voters, and Corruption Watch says that there are significant things that the president has got to do. And in that regard, I will be talking to Mr. Modise Network, who is the chairperson of Corruption Watch. But first, let's talk to Mr. Fikile. I'm now joined by Mr. Fikile Mbalula, the ANC's head of campaigns, and he is here with us to unpack how they ran the campaign as well as the strategies moving forward. We invite you to join the network with your comments using the hashtag the Modise Network. Mr. Mbalula, I like your name, Fikile. How did it come about, this name?
Well, when I went to police, the things we did, the masses there coined me. This concept of Fikile, given the strides we made in a very short space of time. So that's how it came about. So when I was in sports, it was Razzmatazz.
Oh, yes, I remember. So then you carried the Fikile too.
Yeah, depending on if you're a man of action, you get all sorts of names.
Yeah. Well, and now talking about the campaign, we will talk about the losses that the ANC suffered in terms of percentage of support. But there was a time, at least at the very beginning of the election campaign, where it seemed like the ANC was running a lackluster, for lack of a word, campaign, that there was no razzmatazz around the campaign. So what are the unique things that you got up to as the head of the campaigns?
Well, given the nature of the data in terms of polling we're exposed to, because to us, research is a science, campaign is the art. So we had to change the strategy because many people predicted that we'll be going for big events and all of that. But our campaign required us to talk to the voter, given, reeling from a past where we're battered and having this negative image. So we had to adopt what we called a wall-to-wall campaign. As you would have seen, we go into communities and have door-to-door voter contact and big meetings, but at the community level. We didn't bus people into the central place because sometimes you bus the converted. So we're to be there with the people, experience all these things that we needed to experience, and talk to them directly. So voter contact, that is it, because from the onset we knew that we need to entice, win the trust of the people, but build the confidence and consolidate, and then ensure a big voter turnout.
So who were the influential personalities in as far as you're concerned? We can start with the president, for instance. How did it work out with him doing door-to-door?
Well, when you talk about our president, we characterize it as one of the game changers, big puzzle piece of the campaign, because the president's voice as the mouthpiece and the leader of the campaign and leading the collective he was well received among the masses of our people, and which is good for a party. If your president is well received, well perceived by society, and people trust in him, it is good. And that is one of the things that became the game changers for us in the campaign. And then it was followed by the game changers by other presidents of the ANC former coming into the party in a big way. And amongst them who shook, earth-shattering, was former President Mbeki. And he had cogent the reasons why he did that, and referring to the manifesto. Of course, Comrade Kgalema, and so on. President Zuma was there always in the campaign and doing the campaign and so on. But these ones were game changers in a sense, because they were not there. In particular, President Mbeki in our past election campaign. So President Ramaphosa brought a lot of fresh air and a lot of trust to the ANC. There was a trust deficit between us and our people. And they will always say, others say it in person, I will not vote for the ANC here, I'll vote for Ramaphosa. I'm voting for Ramaphosa, I'm voting for Ramaphosa. So that message kept reverberating, and that's why we coined at the end, we went back to 94 and said, Ramaphosa, the people's president, the people's choice, because it came from that message on the ground. So if you are mechanical, you will say that why praise the president? It is an analysis that is informed also by our own polling internally that said that people had high regard for the president, and he was polling high, and which was good for us coming into this election.
Well, you say that, and you took flack yourself. You've been heavily slammed, criticized by your own colleagues within the ANC for suggesting that. You said you reckon that the ANC's popularity would have been around 40%, and the presence of Cyril Ramaphosa as leader of the organization helped take you to 57%. But your Secretary General disagrees with you. The Free State Youth League disagree with you, and already are suggesting that you are saying what you're saying because of career ambitions of sorts. I mean, how would they miss the point?
You see, Bratim, if you are infected with imaginations that are negative, you will take a negative stance and simply think that people raise issues because they are filled with such things like what they mention. The reality of the matter is that they miss firing because they don't get what I'm talking about, which comes from our own perspective and which is informed by our own science. It is not about praise singing for SAPA, for the president. It is about explaining that in this campaign, Ramaphosa became a very big factor for the ANC. They simply failed to understand that. And when you explain to them, they understand. SG did not understand because the journalist who wrote the story from Times said that if Nkosazana would have won, ANC would have dropped to 40%, which was absolute diatribe. Actually, what I said is that we came from 40% and then up to 50%. And Ramaphosa's election increased the fortunes of the ANC. I can't account about Nkosazana because I don't know where will it put us. Even that question of Nkosazana did not arise, but it was nuanced, brought in when there was no such, when I articulated the factor of the president in relation to the campaign. And even that articulation came as a result of some opposition parties in the ROC
but
who were saying that, no, Ramaphosa was not a factor for you guys. And I explained to them that you are disingenuous.
I suppose members of the public generally can relate to that statement, particularly people who went out to vote on that particular sentiment, for instance. But what baffles South Africans broadly is, why would members of his own party, Cyril Ramaphosa that is, have an issue with the statement that you made? Why is that the case, you think?
Well, the SG, I'll talk about the SG. I won't talk about Youth League and Kalni House and all of that. Because I engaged him. Because he arrived there and he had not seen, he had only seen the headline of Times Live.
Yes.
Okay? I explained to him, and he came back and explained that, look, me and Mbalula were one. And that's why I said, look, don't be allergic to President Ramaphosa, okay? Okay, maybe myself, I went a bit hard on him because he came and said, I'm talking nonsense, you know, and without giving himself time to listen to me. Because once we start talk past each other, we look disorganized. We look as if we don't talk. I run elections, not alone. I work with people with minds and brains who think and who say what needs to be done now. When I speak, I don't speak like a person getting out of a tavern, you know, and verbose what just come into my mind. It is informed by science. It is informed also by the factors around us. So it was unfortunate, that part, and we settled that with the SG, and he understood my point of departure. So these are the people who came, honestly speaking, they were just coming into the party to simply get into igniting a cat fight that they don't understand the context of where the statement, or rather what we're talking about.
But here's another thing, though. I mean, the support of the ANC is 57.8. And then people use that statistic and say, you know, Cyril Ramaphosa is actually not as popular as the former president of the ANC, Jacob Zuma, and on that basis, therefore, he's not a popular figure, that he underperformed. What you claim or suggest is a factor that helped improve the fortunes of the ANC. Others see it negatively and say, actually, the support for the ANC declined by 5% or so.
If you look at the ANC, where it came from, in terms of the last election, we came from a low base. And we came from 8 million down, from 11 million in 2016. And in this election, with a low voter turnout of 68% plus, we're able to register 10 million people voting for the ANC, with a big recovery from 8 million down. How did it happen? Of course, you have gone down in terms of percentages. We knew. Our own fortunes put us between 58 and 61. And that will have ensured that we have overwhelming victory, which is what we wanted, and we have attained that. We knew we came from a totally low base, and that low base was 40%. That's where we took off. People did not have trust, but the new dawn shaped their trust and belief in the ANC.
Which has raised people's expectations, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
Of course. And so, if you look at it from a scientific point of view and analysis and understanding from how we ran the election campaign, designed to deliver these results, is victory for the ANC.
I take the point in terms of that, but you know, within the ANC itself, at some point there seemed to be confused messaging. There was talk of 9 wasted years, and that had to be retracted somehow or toned down. And on the other hand, the president was saying, we apologize for the wrongs of the past. And so it's a bit confused. Does the ANC believe that it's time for renewal, that it must recover from something? What is it that it is recovering from, given what you know internally?
Well, it is renewal, it is unity. And when we characterize the past, it's the past of the good and the bad. And then it's not 9 wasted years. We disagree with that assertion, and we dismissed it right from the onset. But we acknowledge through our president, which our narrative is consistent, that the past 25 years have been good, but also they've been the bad. And part of the bad is that we've got a burden that today we are perceived to be corrupt. And we've got that particular perception that have stained the ANC getting into this election. There is a perception that we don't deliver, even though we have done so much amongst our people, also because of corruption. And so what have been purported and propagated about non-delivery was right there in the minds of our people. Behavioral patterns on the ground, our public representatives. We are an organization that is tolerant to misgoverning, ungovernable, and all of that. We need to fix that. We came in this election with the first tone. Look at our manifesto. In terms of our opening and our narrative, it says we accept we have veered away. We are on the recovery path. And if you look at the recovery path, it tells you from this election that we are on the recovery path. Our people have said to us, we trust you. Go and do more. it is not enough.
Well, we hope they say go and do more of that which is good.
Which is
not
good.
Do more of that which is bad.
It says that.
And I'm going to raise a few points with you and look at your game plan as the ANC going forward, what you are preparing for. My guest is Fikile Mbalula, the head of the ANC campaigns. He's just emerged from the victory of the ANC, retaining the mandate to run the country, but with challenges up the hill that they've got to deal with. We'll continue our conversation in a short while.